Action-adventure games are always a thrill to play and cover a wide assortment of games. Throughout the years, there have been some very notable titles, including Legend of Zelda, Wizardry, Tower of Druaga, Might and Magic, The Binding of Isaac, and now... Diehard Dungeon. Hello everyone, I am Stefan the Old World Gamer, and welcome to the Indie Source. Oh, baby. This is one of the first games developed by TrickTale, an independent indie game developer with a love for roguelikes. Diehard Dungeon almost immediately reminded me of my first playthrough of Legend of Zelda, but instead of an overworld, it's just dungeon screen after dungeon screen until you finish the game. You appear to be a bandit, clad in rags and a funky bandana, who wakes up in a dungeon with no preface or story, and you are soon given the tools you require to complete the dungeon: a sword, a hand cannon, which lobs bombs, and a trusty companion chest who will gobble up all of the delicious loot you find along the way. Diehard Dungeon first started off as the Dungeon of Despair, and once TrickTale changed the name, he also began a WordPress blog on August 31st, 2012 to detail the updates and changelogs each time the game was patched. At this point in time, Diehard Dungeon was only available to play on Xbox Live, and TrickTale was in the process of making a PC port of the game, which arrived on April 10th, 2013. In only a little over a week, the game was put into the Indie ROYALE Debut 2 bundle to help circulate the newly ported version. A month later, TrickTale decided to stop updating Diehard Dungeon for the Xbox Live, as there were many issues with Microsoft and their payments to the developer, which is something all developers should be made aware of. In May of 2013, TrickTale updated and released new game patches to keep building on the game and to follow new content to make its way to the players, and was available through many mediums such as the ever-popular Desura. And as fans and players were asking for one so much, the Diehard Dungeon OST was released at the end of May and could be downloaded for any price people wished to pay for it. In June, Diehard Dungeon also made its appearance on GAMERSGATE as a DRM-free download and eventually got a trailer and demo made, which could also be downloaded through Desura or Gamefront. With so many options of downloading or even seeing the game began to get a decent following and eventually be moved to Indie Game Stand, and then again to the Steam community. The votes started piling in, and by February 6, 2014, Diehard Dungeon became greenlit on Steam. Each time you start the game, you are given a choice of going on to a regular difficulty set of rooms marked with white text, while the other set of rooms will be a harder difficulty and marked with red text. The harder dungeons usually yield better rewards, but of course the danger level is increased. A very nice addition to the game is the ability to give the player a new and unique dungeon every time they play the game. The rooms are always different and can be cleared by killing enemies, finding a key, hitting a trigger, or fulfilling a condition. There are of course traps and plenty of objects to destroy, but they are usually clearly marked so that if the player takes damage or dies due to a trap, they know it was their neglect that got them there. Throughout the dungeon you will find many different items including power-ups, tokens, treasures, heart containers, bonus chests, and golden keys. You must collect 10 golden keys throughout your journey before you may leave the dungeon and obtain champion status, which opens a new gameplay feature, so the player has a choice to make the game go for as long as they wish so long as they don't collect the golden keys. The tokens can be spent at the token wells and will allow the player to spend a total of 3 tokens at a time. Each time they spend one, they may get a new power-up, a heart container, treasure, or sometimes just more tokens. There are plenty of power-ups that give you new sword abilities, new powers for your hand cannon, increase your speed, allow you to hurt yourself to kill all enemies in a room, which is kind of a weird curse, allow your sword to shoot projectiles like the Legend of Zelda, and there is one power-up that will even allow you to hide inside your companion chest, and another to allow you to do damage while hiding. And heart containers give the player more life and chances to live through the peril and harm. Those are pretty self-explanatory. Bonus chests are another way of gathering power-ups more quickly, as you have a chance of opening it 0 to 3 times. The power-ups available are then spun like a slot machine. If you get 3 of an item, you will obtain the power-up. The treasure you collect along the way is not just for show, but will upgrade your talking companion chest so that it can eventually have attacks of its own and can eventually do the work for you while you keep yourself alive. One ability you're given once you have the sword is the ability to charge it up and do a 360-degree spin attack. Link to the past. But if you time it just right, there is a way that you can actually do a double spin attack. I myself didn't even use this regular spin attack when I played, and I almost forgot about it. Perhaps TrickTale could have thrown an enemy into the game that could only be defeated or disarmed by a spin attack to make it more useful and to remind the player. As you make your way through each floor of the dungeon, there can be different circumstances, such as the dungeon master attacking you, or a secret crystal that has to be opened before you can leave the room. And at the end of every stage, there's a boss which needs to be defeated before moving on to the next floor. One of the achievements and goals of the game is to defeat the dungeon master, but he has only shown up a handful of times when I was playing. During those times, he would just harass me and not bother fighting me himself. The secret crystals can be found behind walls, and each holds a different type of reward. As for the bosses, there is a different boss for each type of floor you enter, such as the dungeon, underground, ruins, the chambers, and so on. Each boss also has a regular and hard difficulty, and will give any seasoned player a run for their money. And of course, as mentioned earlier, once you collect 10 golden keys and complete the game, you can re-enter the dungeon in champion mode. So, how did Diehard Dungeon fare in scoring? Once again, I have chosen a game which resembles a game from my past, and Diehard Dungeon reminds me of classic Legend of Zelda, but with 16-bit graphics. It just stands to show that not everything has to be done in CGI or with the newest graphics engines in order for it to be fun and exciting. Of course, the game could stand for more different environments as they seem to blend together a little too much. I gave the graphics of this game a 7 out of 10 as everything looked nice, but nothing really stood out to wow me. The soundtrack was good and it reminded me of the music from La Milana for some reason, probably due to the use of reverberation. I find the soundtrack can always set the mood for the adventure, and if the soundtrack is crappy, then the game can get boring quite easily. The music of the game fit quite well with the environment, and when it loops, you don't get a feeling of redundancy. The sound effects used all fit quite well, and nothing really sounds out of place anywhere in the game. That being said, I gave the game audio a 9 out of 10, as I think the music really gets the player absorbed into the game. Good job, Case Portman, the artist behind the game's soundtrack. The gameplay was fairly simple and easy to get the hang of, and would be friendly to any player, whether a novice or advanced. The only hard control to the game is mastering the double spin attack, which I was only able to pull off a single time after the game told me how to do it. Otherwise, I did not find any gameplay issues at all, and feel that the game deserves an 8 out of 10 for gameplay. It does play well, but there are plenty of other buttons available, even if the game were kept on the Xbox, and could have been utilized in extending the game's playability. Now, the story of the game is not the best, as you basically just wake up in a dungeon and make your way forward. It's the only complaint I have about the game. It would have been great if there was a reason as to why you started here. Perhaps you are a thief that was looking for the heist of your life, and you fall into an old underground temple that has been hidden for years. It doesn't even have to be a long story, but it seems a lot of indie games are being done this way recently. I'm giving the story a 5 out of 10, as the only bit of story is actually at the start when you first run the game. So there's that at the very least. Diehard Dungeon has a lot of replay value, as there are other forms of the game to unlock, such as champion mode. You can play through on the normal mode and just select all the hard floors for an increased difficulty, and you can unlock minigames such as Mayhem, where you're a full-powered companion chest and you have to use thumbsticks in order to move and shoot, much like Smash TV. The purpose of Mayhem is to kill as many enemies as you can and collect as much treasure as you can. All the different modes and challenges you can make for yourself sets the game's replay value at a 9 out of 10. Overall, the game comes out at a fair 76 out of 100, and over time, the developer could still improve upon the game and patch it with even more great content. If you are a fan of Legend of Zelda, then grab this game from Steam as soon as you can. The game comes in at $5.49 and is always on special, and as I write this, it was 70% off, bringing the price to $1.64. And if you ever want the soundtrack, there will be a direct link in the description below. Well, that's it for the second episode of Indie Source. Please leave a like so others can find the video, and if you have any suggestions for the next Indie Source, leave them in a comment below. Also, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to see more great Indie Source episodes and other great content. Also, check me out on Patreon. I always appreciate the support. As always, thank you all for watching. I am the Old World Gamer, and I will see you all soon for another Indie Source.